Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Sullivan, and the title of my study is Mile Times High Intensity Interval Training versus Continuous Training. Throughout this presentation, you'll see this is abbreviated as HIITG, which stands for High Intensity Interval Training Group, versus CTG, which is the Continuous Training Group, as well as you may see the CG, which is the Control Group. So a little background on this presentation, our study is broken down into a few parts. First is the focus of the study. Here it's just centered on how the students are physically going to respond to the different exercise protocols, such as high interval trainings or continuous training. We also have a control group, which was just utilized using just normal, regular physical education activities, just to compare scores with. The goal of the study was primarily just to get a better understanding to which exercise protocol is more beneficial to use in this type of setting with students learning and improving on their running pace or aerobic capacity. The measurements that I was using for the students' physical responses was running pace, which was like a timed 1 mile run pre and post, and the dependent variables was the actual times, the running performance, and my independent variables were the control groups, the HIITTGs, the continuous groups, as well as the high intensity groups. So the reason I decided to study more into this topic was mainly due to the decline that has been pretty apparent in the youth population, student population. I'm sure a lot of this has to do with the technological advances, Facebook, Twitter, and all that, and it's causing students to be less physically active. The reason I decided on the mile run is because as an older student or as an older person now, I remember always I can always recall what my best mile time was, and in that sense, I always equated that to when I was in my peak physical performance. So, in my opinion, like the classes that I have recently been in and helped assist in, I noticed that students don't do much physical activity to where they even break a sweat anymore. And in my opinion, having an improving students' mile times as well as teaching them how to get those improvements, it would be a pretty useful tool, not only while they are learning, but as as a lifelong tool. Because even today, as a 30-year-old, I can look back and remember what my mile time was. I know what it is now. It kind of gives me a good reference as to where I am at physically. So, in that sense, I believe this is why this is a good topic to try to get a better understanding and possibly implement with student physical education curriculums. So in the study, the basic research question is, what are the effects of each training protocol and based on running pace? My personal research hypothesis was that I believed that the high intensity interval training group is going to show greater improvements with running pace compared to the continuous training group. The null hypothesis in this equation is that there will be no association between the training protocols and running pace at all. And the alternative hypothesis, which is pretty much the same as my research hypothesis, but it's a little bit more basic, is that there is a relationship between the running protocols and, running pace and the training protocols. So pretty much that's the basic foundation of what I'm trying to figure out and distinguish between the two training exercises. So for the methods portion of this study, I broke it down into the participants, the procedures, and instrumentations. So starting with the participants, we used just a normal average class in a high school freshman setting. It consisted of 20 healthy young men, 24 young women. They were all between the ages of 14 and 15. The inclusion criteria was just a quick little survey and questions of asking, making sure no students had any sort of debilitating diseases that would reflect in the results, as well as other limitations like smoking and stuff like that. But it was all based on self-reporting. As far as the group breakup, it was in the high intensity group, it was 7 males, 5 females. In the continuous training group, it was 6 males, 6 females. And the control group was 5 males, 8 females. So at the beginning of the study, we had 44 students in the class. 38 participants actually finished the study, and that's what we were able to base our results on. So then now we'll go into the procedures of the study. So for the procedures of this study, it was really straightforward. At the beginning of the class, we had each student's weight, height, age, everything was documented, as well as a resting heart rate, so we could be able to monitor between the two groups, adequate heart rates and during the exercise that they were doing. As far as the training exercises for the high intensity group, they would happen 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and on the off days, the Tuesday and Thursday, they would just participate in normal physical education classes with the control group. So each high intensity exercise would consist of 20-meter sprints with 5 to 10 second rest intervals, and this would happen for a duration of 30 minutes with warm-ups before and cool downs afterwards. For the continuous training group, the same would happen. They would be going 3 days a week as well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on the off days they would be just participating in normal PE classes. However, for their training, it was 30 minutes of continuous treadmill running, and the aim for them was at 70% heart rate max. Luckily enough, the treadmills do have the sensors to where they can average their heart rate. For the high intensity group, who were aiming for 90%, it was more of learning how to calculate your heart rate and for a pulse rate. Excuse me. So instrumentation that we needed throughout this course, like I said, it's a student high school class, so we tried to be as basic as possible. We were lucky enough to get the 12 treadmills, but for the high intensity group, all we needed was an open field measured in 20-meter increments. We need stopwatches to record the scores and the mile time, as well as we need an open field for running the mile. The statistical analysis came from using the SPSS, a statistical package for social science in Chicago, and that's how we broke down the dependent t-test for the paired within the groups, and also the independent t-test to compare the differences between the groups. So at the end of the study, the results that came out were pretty, I would say, predictable, because this test has been ran multiple times and it's been covered on many different aspects, such as VO2 levels, as far as all the way down to a genetic level of how these types of training protocols affect the physiology of not only just students, but everybody that participates in exercising. But what I found in this study was that the high-intensity interval training group showed a significant difference in means between the control group, as well as the continuous training group showed significant differences between their running pace improvements and the control group. So in that aspect, both training protocols proved to be a viable resource to help students improve their running pace. But when it came down to the actual level of improvement, the high intensity interval group showed greater improvement compared to the continuous training group. So in a sense, I guess my hypothesis was correct. The one thing that I didn't see coming was the fact that they would both actually be they both show significant results. So for future researches and studies or follow-ups onto this type of study, I would first like to implement a few more statistical tests as far as the student's age, weight, gender, and height, and see what kind of role those specific variables would have played in the outcome of this, in the results that I got. Also, following up this test, I would like to administer a simple 10-question essay format type of test to the students to get a better sense of how they perceived each exercise protocol, what they enjoyed or what they didn't like about it, and get a better understanding of how likely these students are to continue on with these types of training exercises. And then for as far as the conclusion, like I said, kind of in the last slide, both exercises proved to show significant differences between running pace compared to the control group. And when it came down to the independent variable, or excuse me, when it came down to the independent t-test, the high intensity interval group showed greater improvements than the continuous group compared to the control group. So that was kind of a basic rundown of my research study. I hope to hear any questions that you might have, and I look forward to answering them.